it's not there yet. Are we live now, y'all? Are we here? Are we here?
It says live on here. I might have to turn my... No, I don't see it yet either.
All right, we are live according to my iPad. So hello. Welcome, everyone. Happy Thursday. I hope you got to do some thrifting on this Thursday. I am super excited about my new little segment, and most importantly, that Alex from Chapter 2 Vintage Co. has agreed to be my first guest. Y'all, I'm like starstruck, like all cheesy and whatnot, and I don't know what to do.
Oh, you stop it. You stop it.
So,
well, thank you for asking me.
Oh, you're most...
I was nervous, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Be put on the spot to be asked questions, but I have little notes so I don't sit there and say 5,000 times. So we'll see how it goes.
Notes. So we should be good because we both got cheater notes on here. But I kind of wanted to tell everybody how this got started because this is the very first one. I was telling Alex a few minutes ago how I got started, which most of you, if you've been on my channel or chats before, know that I got started in furniture. And I needed something to stage that furniture. So I got into, just the knickknacks of the vintage items to match the aesthetic. Well, we were kind of talking about that. And no, my items were not even marked that I was staging with, but people wanted to buy them. And Lovey was like, look, you went to Goodwill or you went to the little charity shop and you bought it, sell that, and you can just get you another one. It'll be fresh staging. So my feelings were a little hurt that it was my furniture selling, but that it was the knickknacks selling. But that's kind of how I got into it. So a lot of the staging involved like console dishes or candy dishes or vases or anything like that. I had no idea what they were. I just knew they were pretty, hence sweet treats and pretties, because that's how it came about. I know nothing about it and I just put it there. But the people that were buying it obviously knew what it was. And I literally had a customer my second time ever doing a show saying, honey, you obviously don't know what this is. Because I had it marked for like double what I paid for it, which Alex and I were just talking. My Goodwill has some great prices. So I probably had it marked for maybe $5 just because it was staging. And the lady goes, if you're going to be a reseller, you may want to look some of this up. She was super nice, but I didn't really know what I didn't know, right? And so I started thinking about it, and there's a lot I don't know about. Like I try to watch as many of the Wisdom Wednesdays as I can from Michelle at Newton's Cupboard, because she has all those references and she's literally going through it for us. I try to go through a bunch of the chats to listen from people in our chats. And so that's kind of how it got started, y'all. So I'm super excited to start my first one with glass, and I'll tell you why I started with glass in a second, but I wanted to say hi to everyone that was in the chat. I'm super excited and nervous, so I'm chatty.
That's okay.
But Christine from Side Street Market, we lovingly call the Afghan Queen, because she knows. Christine actually has taught me a lot. Glass, Afghans. I mean, she and Michelle have kind of really taken me under their wings and been like, no, look for this or look for that. So I'm very grateful to have met them in this community. Of course, our biggest cheerleader, Peterson, is here. So super excited that she is in the chat. Super fun. And Vintage and Vino, is it Jerry? Which one is here? I wasn't sure which one was here today. And who's got, it wasn't a real fire. It was the heat. Oh, and speaking of that, I just got AC, y'all. I live in Texas and my AC has been out for 3 days, and they came to put an AC unit in today. So $5,000 later, we are at 73 degrees in my house. But the last couple of nights has been 82. We've been sleeping in 82. which Lovey's great and all,
Mhm.
y'all, but when it's 82 degrees, you don't want to share your with anybody.
Yeah,
And
right?
Katie with Vintage and Vinyl. Katie is another one that is just a wealth of knowledge. And I learned so much. You can watch anything that Katie does and learn something, you know?
Oh, yeah. Katie's awesome. Katie, speaking of this, so Gabriel collects Coke bottles now.
Oh, wow.
So he needs to get a maybe like, well, he has Coke. He bought an old Mountain Dew bottle today, and he has something else. So we need a good soda or cola bottle reference book. So if you got any names, leave them in the chat, please.
That's a cool little collection.
Yeah, he's always had little bottles. He has bottles from that we dug up in our yard when they did the septic. He loves stuff like that. But he was researching his bottles, and he bought one while we were with Katie, and he learned like how to tell the dates on them and stuff like that. So he's all about it. He's on his thing, like on eBay, researching stuff and looking stuff up, and he wants a book now. I have bottle books, but they don't necessarily talk about his cola bottles. You know, they're like antique bottles.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. Hey, Dee, how you doing? Dee's another one. She's, I think, Dee, did you say you've been doing this for 3 years? It was in a chat one time. I think she said that she'd been doing this for years. That's a long time. I've probably been doing furniture. Oh gosh, I've probably been doing furniture 5 years, close to 5 years. Hi, Pamela Hammett and Virginia. Hello. I always say her name like that when I see it in the other chats. So, but again, I know little to nothing about the other things. Hey, Miss Picasso Cat, Miss Kathy and Bree, how are you? Thank you for coming. Let's see. So, hey, Deborah, Miss Debbie, she is so sweet. Deborah Cavassa,
Yes.
she is just the sweetest person.
All of them are so sweet.
I know. Like I'm looking here. There's Suzical, Artin Ruth, all of the people.
I saw her today at Goodwill.
Oh, did you?
She walks up to me and she was like, "Are you chapter 2?" And I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "I watch you on YouTube." And I was like, "All right." So Gabriel was standing with me, and we called Aaron over, and Gabriel's like, "Look, Dad, a fan." So we got to meet her. Her name's Carol. She's pretty cool. We were talking and looking at all her little finds that she had, and her air conditioning was out, right? Is that what she said? Or her power was out. So she was out shopping. And I was like, that would be me.
Well, I did tell them that they had today to get it in, or I was leaving and going thrifting and ride around in the car with the AC on.
Yep, we did that at our old house when the air went out. And we rented that one. So if your air goes out and you have kids, it's considered an emergency.
Oh,
but wasn't fast enough for me. So we would go ride around or go like walk around Target or whatever just to be in the air.
Yeah. And I mean, it's such first world problems. And I know, y'all, that,
Yeah.
You know, my mother graciously reminded me about the things that I am blessed with, you know, like my health and all. And so you're hot for a few days, but you had the money to buy the AC. And I get that. But man, I was hot.
Well, yeah, that's a good reminder. Yes. But I remember growing up thinking my mom would say, I can't afford a lot of luxuries, but air conditioning is one of them. And I'm going to turn it on, you know, because when she was a kid, that wasn't like a thing. Like grandma never turned on the air. Like, you know, sorry, get a piece of paper.
Yeah. And that's what Lovey said. He grew up with his grandparents. His grandparents raised him. And so he was like, we didn't have AC in Texas. And I'm thinking, y'all are nuts.
Yeah. A lot of the old houses here don't have, the older houses don't have central heater air. Like, how could you be here in this sticky freaking state with no?
Yeah. And I just sent out Joanne Baber's Joanne, the mail person picked up your stuff today. So that is on their way. Yes, AC is necessity. And I think, is it Arizona? Is that where Kathy from Picasso Cat is? It's like, it was like 110 or 115 the other day. And so I would be like, no, ma'am, Sam, I'm out. Going on vacation.
Right.
So let me kind of get started as to how I got Alex. I'm so excited about this, Alex. But how I got her to kind of help me. And that's because if you remember, if you follow me on Instagram, I went home to South Carolina and we went to this it's not really a thrift store. It's not really an antique store. It's kind of like almost
Consignment.
like it's kind of like a consignment, but a flipper's paradise. It's got a little bit of everything in it. A lot of things that have been made or flipped. They've got a paint person in there, but they also have some vintage jewelry and other things like that, household things. Well, I took a picture of I found this beautiful, it looked like a taco, but like a seaweed taco. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was beautifully colored glass, and I flipped it over and it had a Murano sticker on it. And literally because I've never even seen the sticker, right? Because I'm just starting to get into glass and starting to appreciate it. And I took a picture of it. I was super excited and the colors were great. I didn't get it. It was broken. And that's one of the only reasons that I didn't get it. I did run comps on it in the store. And I was like, this is weird. It's only selling for, even with the sticker on it, it's only selling for like, I think it was priced at maybe 13 and it was only selling for maybe 24, 25. But I was super excited because I've seen the sticker, right? And I think it's maybe a day went by or something. And Alex so graciously private messaged me and she's like, hey, I know you're excited about your little find. I don't want to hurt your feelings. If you got it, I want you to know when you're reselling it that I don't believe that that's a real Murano. So we kind of chatted on Instagram about, like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I didn't get it. I noticed the comps were off, but I would never know. So when I got back to the hotel, I was starting thinking about, gosh, how many of us that are relatively novice about glass or pottery or anything, records, anything, we don't want to make a fool of ourselves. 2, we don't want to misrepresent something if we are resellers. We really appreciate the community helping us. So I was like, we need like a vintage 101. And I know that's what Thrift U started out being, is they were going to do Thrift University, right? And so I was like, yeah, I need like the vintage for dummies. And we didn't think vintage for dummies was a good little tagline or a title for it. So I just called it Vintage 101. And I thought, well, there's a bunch of things I want to learn about, soda bottles or anything that you come across. And there's so much knowledge already in the community. And some are very willing to share that. And luckily for me, I kind of threw it out there to Alex and said, hey, there's a lot about basic glass that I don't know. Forget Murano. I'm not even close to Murano yet. But basic glass that I don't know. And several of my friends also don't know. So would you be willing to be the first guest? And she said yes. So after I got off the floor, because I almost fainted, I started thinking about some questions for her. And so the first one is, Alex, how did you learn about glass, or how do you continue to learn about glass?
Same way everyone else does. Books and Google.
Books
and Google. That, and I mean, it does help like feeling and touching things. So if you can come across it in person, like you were saying, I have never seen that sticker before,
Right.
So it does help. Like I always say, like when you come across a piece of whatever and you can't pronounce it, I've not heard that spoken out loud. So it really helps when you get someone that knows how to say it
right
out loud. So now you know. So it helps with like glassware or pottery or whatever, that if you could touch it, feel it, you know, all those kinds of things, along with if you had books about it, you go to the library. The library has a lot of reference books that you could check out. Thriftbooks.com is an awesome place to buy used books that are out of print. That's where you get a lot of these books, is used like that, because they're not in print anymore because everyone does online. But I'm old school and I like to have the book. I like to have it with me. Like,
Right.
I like DVDs, you know what I mean? Like, I like to have the items. So I have a lot of books, and I do a lot of just looking them up on Google, looking them up on, just looking them up online. And you have to know that when you do that, your information is only as good as the person who wrote it. So don't necessarily base your information on like an eBay listing.
Right.
Because they might have the name wrong or the pattern wrong. And maybe they got their information from someone else who had it wrong. So that's where those books really come in handy, figuring out the pattern name and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I figured out, and I learned just like you guys do, books and looking it up.
So how long have you been like, because you do a lot of glass. I mean,
I'm attracted to, okay, so here's why I do a lot of knickknacks. When you go into the thrift store, what is it filled with?
Stuff. What's
Racks
clothes?
of clothes.
Yeah.
I hate doing clothes.
Me
I
too.
used to do a lot of accessories. I loved when I could get good costume jewelry. Like back when I lived in St. Pete in Florida, that was a much older little, well, I don't want to say older. This area is older. But it was more populated, and there was more people, and there was like an older community there of people, of, you know, humans. And so you can get your hands on a lot of older things. Does that make sense?
Yes.
In this area where I live now, there's no like place to shop. Where you can go is like, say, Walmart, the dollar store. There's a lot of dollar stores. So the two little tiny mom and pop thrift stores that we have here, they're not a chain. So they don't separate their items and disperse them throughout the city. What you donate there stays there. And unless someone passes away and their stuff gets donated there, you're really shopping the thrift store. You're shopping the stuff that was at the dollar store.
Right.
So anyways, when you go into the thrift store, it's so many clothes. And I really don't like doing clothes. I don't like taking the pictures. I don't like measuring them. I don't like if one thing is off and you didn't catch it, because there's so many like little pleats and there's so many whatevers going on that if you miss something, gosh forbid you miss something. I just don't like clothes. So I would always go over to like the knickknack area, and I would look around over there. And that's kind of how I started, because I just didn't want to look at clothes. That's how I wandered off over there. And then I don't know, I would just look at things that attracted me. And back in the day when I first started, there was no, I'm going to look it up in the middle of the store.
Right.
You either bought it and went home and took a chance,
Right.
or you already knew about it. There was no, I mean, there was like, cell phones, but it wasn't like it was like texting was brand new way back then, you know? So you just had to take a chance, and you had to, I don't know, you just kind of learned as you went. But that's mainly how I got started on like the knickknack section, is because I just didn't like all the clothes. So I said, nope, I'm going to go over here. And I would pick up things that I was attracted to. That's just how it started. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be glass.
You do find some beautiful things, and your glassware is just amazing. I mean, I don't know if I don't notice it, or if it's not, because I'm very kitschy, like, so it's just the cutesy things that I'm really drawn to. So that real elegant, pretty stuff. I saw that Bree said, Alex keeps feeding my glass obsession. And she's happy to do so, Bree. But I just don't know if I don't know enough about it. It's kind of like, don't touch the fine china. Like I'm above paper plate, but I'm kind of like on your everyday stuff, you know, that you use.
You're like the paper plate with the wicker plate underneath it. You're like right there.
It's
I got you.
There between that and your everyday
Well,
stuff.
I mean, listen, same way, like if I was to go into a store and they just had like a giant sporting goods section, I don't know poop about any of that stuff. All I do is look it up. If I took Aaron in there, he would know about all that stuff because he loves sports. But that's another thing that they just don't have a big section on. They don't. It's like clothes, and then your second biggest is maybe the furniture, but that's just because furniture is bulky. But you got clothes, and then you got knickknacks. So I make do with what is there, but I really hate clothes. So that's where I go over to. And it honestly, you do learn it, and you do end up, you really have to have an eye for some stuff. Like I think I pick up kitschy stuff sometimes when I see it, but it's not something that I'm overly attracted to. So I would probably miss it, to whereas you would like zone in on it.
Yeah.
Know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, I get like the Halloween and the Christmas and maybe the Easter, but like if you threw in some like 70s, like, I don't know, the floral and this and that, I would walk right on past it. Yeah. I know there's someone out there that likes it and I should look at it, but I don't, that's not my thing. So unless I make it a point to stop and just look it all up, that's it. Just look it up. You see something interesting, you see a pattern, you see whatever, just look it up. It's so easy now to do that. You don't have to buy it. That and Google, get home and be like, what did I do? That was, oh my gosh, I just spent that money. You know?
Yeah. Google Lens, where you take that picture. Mm-hmm. Now it does better for me sometimes than the eBay one. But sometimes it'll actually show you, and then because it's connected to so many different things, it's easier for me to learn the pattern that way. I saw that Christy from Tippy Winks Vintage and Joanne from A Work in Progress came in. Kathy Beck came in too. Thank y'all for coming in today. R10 Roof says, I just got back from Tennessee and found a reference book on glass antiques while thrifting there. It's her new Bible.
Yeah, and that's another reason why, like, Brigia has a good point. And I've said this in my videos. I tell you, like, try and go to the antique stores and look at what they're calling things. Look at what
on the tag.
Right. Look at what they're saying things are. But at the same time, you went to an antique store and you were trying to buy Murano. So your information is only as good as the person you're getting it from. So you just have to do your own due diligence, do your own research and figure it out. But I promise you, Murano is like the most faked glass on the planet. There are so few Murano artisans left because it's such a hard job. None of the younger generation wants to practice it and do it. And it takes a lot of years to learn how to do it. And when you go over there, their glass is like thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yeah, you can get lucky and you can find some pieces, but not everything slapped with a Murano sticker is Murano, you know? And not every piece of glass that has a rough bottom is a crappy piece of glass. There are tons of companies that still have rough bottoms on their glass. So that doesn't necessarily make it a great piece of glass. You know what I mean? You just got to try and look it up.
Yeah, so that was one of the questions, is what were some of the basic look-fors? And I appreciate everybody coming in. I'm so locked in and taking notes. I'm sorry if I miss you all. And they've got some great points in there about actually feeling the glass and some things that like Joanne says, Laura Caldwell says to go visit stores and look to learn about items instead of buying, unless you can do both, but keep looking, feel it, etc. Something you said is
but I'll tell you right now, you can go into Hobby Lobby and pick up a paperweight, beautiful piece of art glass. That's from Hobby Lobby, which is probably from China, and it probably weighs 500 pounds. So that's not always it either. Though I get what she's saying, because that's why I said, like, go out and touch things, feel things. Like, you can tell, like, people that know pottery can tell the difference between like a made in Japan piece versus like made in the USA. Czechoslovakian pottery, which I love, especially the birds, is a lot lighter than US pottery. Doesn't make it any, in my mind, doesn't make it any less valuable. I could just tell the difference. So if you couldn't find information, it's probably a safe bet that your item that doesn't have its made in Japan sticker on it, because it's so light and thin, that's probably made in Japan.
Yeah.
And but anyways, the glass.
Vintage and Vino says Abe's Books has great prices on old reference books.
Okay.
And I'm with you, Erin. I need to definitely step up my reference book collection. And Katie says that Warman's Depression Guide.
Oh, yeah. That's a good book.
As well. So I'm glad that y'all are putting in these references, because, you know, I'm going to start. I have a couple of books. And then a lady, when I was at my mom's, she dropped off 5 reference books to me. The problem is, you know, I've got to get somebody to mail them back home because I was in a suitcase. So I didn't.
Well, media mail is super cheap if that's all they're mailing.
Yeah, they can be. I think it's Dana. Is it Dana at Grade 2010 H? If I'm sorry if I missed your name, but she says I put all the reference books I can find at thrift stores and estate sales. She picks those up. She received a recent Roseville pottery one for only $1.
Yeah. Yep. I buy them all. I just picked up. I already have this book, and it's funny because I had never seen it before, but we picked it up. It's a Lady Head Vase book. I found another one. I couldn't believe it. And we sold that because that book is rare. And if you, I haven't looked it up recently, but back when I got it, that book was like $35, $40 on like eBay. I don't know what the price is now, so don't, you know, set me on fire and burn me at the stake for it. But I found another one the other day to bring to you guys in the sale, because I'm like, holy crap, I've never seen this book before. And now I've found 3. So I have that. And then I think I picked up another paperweight book for you guys. Because I have a couple paperweight. I don't have this particular book, but the book that I have is like thick as a Bible. So I don't like need another paperweight book. So I bought it for you guys, because those things, you know, they can be pretty spendy. And I like to, and this is what I told Katie, if you go to antique stores, a lot of the times they sell the reference books, and they're pretty darn cheap in the antique stores. Yeah. So they're between sometimes $3 and $5 most times, the reference books. So
which is good for a hardback reference.
Heck yeah. Yes, it is.
Poor Katie says she bought a piece of faux Murano glass when she was in Murano, and it had a sticker. It had just been painted, which I'm almost certain that was a reproed sticker. Once I started looking at the true Murano stickers, and then looking back at my picture and blowing it up, it looked like, it kind of looked like it was a copy of, it was close, but it wasn't the true sticker.
It's just, you have to, I mean, there is, obviously that glass has been around for a long time. So there's going to be stuff floating around out there, but it's so faked. It doesn't take away the fact that it's beautiful. It's a pretty piece of glass, and it is a piece of art glass. Somebody somewhere did make that piece of glass. I would just urge you to just not, I mean, unless I went to the island of Murano and like bought a piece from one of the artisans, I think that's what it would probably take for me to list it as legit Murano, because it's so rare, I think. I don't know. And they're not all signed. And then to boot, anyone can freaking get a Dremel and sign a piece of glass, you know? So I don't know.
Robinson is saying, is there a way that so how do you know it's a phony Murano sticker?
Well, a lot of the stickers, it's written in Italian, right? So they're trying to be slick. And they put Murano in giant letters. And then the other little letters will say that it's done in the art style of Murano. But when you're buying it, right, when you're buying it, you just see that, oh my gosh, it's Murano. You see the Murano sticker. There's a bunch of different stickers, but a lot of them literally translate to it's done in the style of the artisans of Murano, or it's done in the art style of Murano Glass or whatever. Yeah, so that's a hard one. So I would just,
I mean, is there a certain color or a foil, or is it embossed, or because the only one that I saw when
they do everything. They sign their pieces. They'll use stickers. They don't use stickers. I mean, there's no one set way really to know. I mean, I would love to get my hands on a Murano book. That would be great. They're expensive.
They are. They're about $75, $80. I looked them
up. Listen, my birthday is coming, okay? So I might ask Santa to get me that for my birthday. But other than having that book so I can see all the research that we've done, because I've tried to look so hard so I could have something to tell you guys. Yeah. Like in my videos and stuff, and when I show things, because I don't want to give you the wrong information, but my information is only as good as what I'm looking at. Is that anyone can sign anything. They signed things, they didn't. They, put stickers on them, they didn't, So I don't know. That one is just, all I can say is try and pay low. That's all I gotta say.
There's some Tonala that's signed, some, because I bought Tonala from my antique emporium owner. She owned the emporium, and they were her pieces. She literally watched them make it, but they were practice. They were not good enough to be signed. And then there's another, and so it's kind of like with other things too. It's not just Murano. There's no one true way to know, unless literally you are standing there and you, like you said, you watch them make the piece and then they gave it to you. So
right. It's like Fenton Glass. Fenton goes out of business. So these other companies buy their molds and stuff. And you think, oh, this pattern looks just like Fenton and da-da-da-da-da. Oh, it might have been made from their mold, but it's, it might not be them anymore. It's just, I don't know. The biggest suggestion I can give you is to just buy low, in case it is like a reproduction or something. And even reproductions have their place in history. I don't always believe that a reproduction is completely worthless, or a fake is worthless, because they have their own place in history of why and when they were reproduced. Why were they, being faked and X, Y, and Z. So, they have their own place as well, and they hold their own value. Just try and buy it as low as you can.
Yeah. And Katie's saying that Fostoria has that problem too. The coin glass, especially. And for Pat has said, so are you saying you can't trust any Murano markings? I don't know that it's that you can't trust them. It's just what I'm hearing you say is to be aware that they are of reproductions. And there's not.
Yeah. And if you're a collector, just be aware that, for example, we have this guy with this sticker that says Murano in big letters. Okay. He was $45 at one point whenever we bought him. That's how much we bought him for. And I bought him for resale because I thought, oh, he's really cool. And let me tell you, I've stepped up my game a lot since I very, very first started. And my budget was I don't want to go over $5. So if someone's like, oh my gosh, you spent $45. Well, reselling things got a little bit better and I could take a chance. But I lost because that's not a real piece of Murano. It's a beautiful piece of art glass, but it's not real. So if you like it, if it's worth it to you, you buy it. But just buy it knowing, spend that money knowing that more often than not, it's not real, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and someone said, I watched a very interesting video about how much Murano by percentage is fake. As long as people have talent and make beautiful things, there will always be, those cheats and thieves. If you like it, and if it's for you, you pay whatever you want to pay for it. if you like it and you're going to resell it, you just need to make sure that what I'm hearing people collectively say is, if you're going to be a reseller of these things, to make sure that you have looked more than just the sold comps on eBay, that you've actually done some digging behind it to call it what you call it. If you want to call it in the style of Murano,
right.
Murano, just make sure for your reputation as a reseller, that you are in good standings, and you can say, how do you know this is real? There's things, my big daddy used to collect coins, and there is a lot of fake in coins.
Yes, exactly. I collect coins as well.
He would have to have the authenticity trail of how he sold that, because he bought and sold currency. So I remember him saying that, and it kind of does apply to a lot of the things in the vintage world as well.
Right.
Hey, Pamela, Miss Pamela, sweet Pamela.
Hey, Miss Pamela.
She said, how'd you find out it was a fake?
I literally Googled the name on that sticker, and it said, it translated in English to done in the art style of Murano.
So you did the Google Translate. You put what it said.
Right. I put it from Italian to English. 1 second.
Yes. And Joanne, it is the same with like Coach purses and all of that kind of stuff. They've been reproed for a long time. Yeah, Murano books are available. They are very expensive. Like I said, I looked one up. I was watching her live the other day, Alex's live sale, when she said that she really wants a book, and she's going to be saving up. And I thought, it's a book, So I Googled it thinking, hey, I'll go on Amazon and see what the books were. And the cheapest one I found was like $78. And I don't even know which, what version of the book, or which, if it was just one style of the book.
I look when we go out to antique stores. So I'm on the hunt for like a Viking glass book and the Murano book. But after your video, I'm going to, I'll send you a link to a very interesting video. It was basically, I think, done by, wasn't it like a news organization? It was like a news channel that did an investigation and go undercover to Italy, to the places in like the shops in Italy. And I'll send you the link to that so that you can put in your video so people can reference back to that. And it'll like, you'll be like, oh my God. It's the most faked thing over there, Murano Glass, especially in the touristy parts, because we're Joe Schmoes. What do we know?
Right.
And they'll tell you like, yep, that's real. Yep, I went to the island of Murano and I bought that.
Dee said they must be lined with gold to be $77 worth for those books.
I'm telling you.
So what are some of the basics to look for in glass? Like, if I'm going to look for,
like to determine value?
No, as in like what is good glass? I mean, I know there's like 1,000 things of that, like art glass versus maybe something that's more valuable. So I guess,
well, art glass can be valuable. All art glass is it's like, it refers to a glassmaker's sort of experiment that he's making. Whatever that art glass piece is a bit of an experiment. And like they're trying new things. And so it doesn't make it, art glass doesn't make it less valuable because it's not done like, because it's not crystal, or it's not Tiffany, or if it's not something like that. And the art glass, if it's signed, obviously the signature could make it go up in value. So just because it's a piece of art glass, or because it's like whimsical looking or whatever, doesn't mean that it's less valuable, because it's not done by like some giant manufacturing company.
So what about like the differences in the bubbles? Like I hear the words controlled bubbles or what, so what's the difference there?
Well, the controlled bubbles usually comes in like really thick glass, and it's because they have to use several layers of bubbles to get the bubbles, if that makes sense. So it makes the glass like really, really thick. And they overlay all those bubbles to usually form a pattern, and it's usually from like smallest to biggest bubble. So when you find, I have like an example when you find the controlled bubbles, they form a pattern like this. And you see how like thick and chunky the glass is?
Yeah.
That's because for each bubble, they got to do it like over and over and over. So you get this really chunky, thick piece of glass because they're doing the pattern over and over and over again. And when it's Murano, it is like, so I hear anyway, so very precise and on point because their artisans are amazing. You know, there's like no flaw, you know, in their glass. There's no like extra little bubble over there. I mean, when you look at their research, apparently their glass is ridiculously perfect, even though it's handmade.
So does controlled bubble mean that where it's...
They literally controlled where it was placed. Yes.
And they
usually do it in a pattern.
Okay. Is it the shape too?
I guess you could find different shapes of the bubble, like oval versus circle or whatever, but generally they're like little teeny tiny ones and they kind of graduate in size and they get a little bit bigger. That's what I've seen. I mean, that's what I know.
So on the bottom, another question that comes up, especially on paperweights, but on the bottom about the clear versus the cloudy bottom, what does that mean?
It simply means that someone took more care to polish one's bottom than the other.
So it's
sometimes, like for example, I have this paperweight, and this bottom is see how nice and shiny that is. So someone took the time, and it's not signed, doesn't have a sticker. Someone took the time to polish that and make that nice and shiny versus this one being cloudy. They polished the pontil off, the little loop-de-doo that's on the bottom that the glass gets, a little glob of glass, but they didn't polish it down so fine that it looks like this.
Yeah, that's a gorgeous piece. So does it mean that it's like a better maker or more valuable? I heard you say
no. A lot of better makers, yes, they do polish their glass, but there is very valuable antique glass that they never polish the bottoms. A lot of them just were given feet so that their rough bottom wouldn't scratch like the surface that it was sitting on. So you can find a lot of antique glass that has rough bottoms on there. So that doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't made by a good company. It could mean that it's just old. So like, and that's another thing, that dating glassware can be extremely difficult. Most glassware was never labeled or stamped. Right. So like I showed you my piece, it doesn't have label or stamp. It's kind of impossible to like properly identify most glassware unless you're like extremely experienced or like really, really lucky in that particular genre. Like if you collect for collect the glass for beauty, then it's fine. But if you collect for like a certain designer or if you collect a certain time period, then your identification becomes a lot more important. So me, if I find a name, fantastic. But I collect it more for its beauty, or I buy it or purchase it more because of it's striking to me.
Because it's pretty.
Right. I'm attracted to it. So if I collected it for a certain designer or pattern, then that's when your names and stickers and stuff like that becomes more important. Now, glass is made by sand, if you guys didn't know that. Fine ground particles of sand melted down. But glass was made by hand until real recently. In history, until like the mid 1800s, it was mostly hand blown. So, and it was blown on a ponty or like a long tube, like a pipe. And it was blown. And what they did was they had like a extra glob of glass on the end. that would hold your piece on, so that they can mold it and spin it and blow into it and create it and the shape that they're looking for. And then when they were done, they would just snap off the glass and you'd have this rough spot, this pontil mark.
So that's what the pontil is, because that's what
is when the glass was broken off the pipe. Now they have all kinds of cool gadgets. They have, you know, different tools and stuff. But way back when, it was just like a metal type pipe, you know, and they would snap the glass off. And especially in a lot of antique glass, they would have that rough pontil mark, and they would give the glass feet, like I said, and it would keep it off the surface so it wouldn't get scratched. Yeah, so that happened. They did that, and I'm talking about old glass. They did that up until about the late 1700s. They would give glass feet, and you'll see the pontil. So if you're in an antique store and you see like a thin sort of, I don't know, just delicate looking piece of glass, and it's got feet and it's got a pontil mark, you might have an old piece of glass on your hands. So after that, they started like polishing the bottoms, and it usually left like a round like depression in the glass because they would polish it, but it would still have like little sort of gaps and stuff, you know, on the glass. I don't have like an example of that. Like I have this paperweight here.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah, and that carnival is done. They spray like a salt on it, and when it's like taken back and forth in and out of the kiln, it makes like a oxidized, shiny pattern. But like this doesn't have a pontil on it at all, and doesn't have like a very shiny bottom.
So that means it's been ground down and polished.
Right, but it wasn't polished like to a glassy shine. It kind of has the effect of the rest of it. It's sort of like a satin color.
It matches the texture of the other glass.
Right. But then I have like this one, for example. And this one is signed, and it has a nice polished bottom. See that reflection?
Yeah.
There is like no pontil left on that. So they went over it and over it and over it and over it, and they got it polished really fine. And now I'm just talking. So if you want to get to your questions, you can.
No, I'm just reading some of the chat. Michelle is listening, and I hope she's driving and not typing. But she says the pipe, Michelle from Newton's Cupboard, pipe is called a blow pipe if it is being blown, like blown glass, and a punty if not being blown, because somebody had asked, was the pipe called the pontil?
No, the pontil is what's left on there after they've knocked the glass off. They would call the pipe, now they might call it a blow pipe, but they would call it a punty. That long pipe that they would blow the glass on, that's what they called it, which is when you snapped it off, why they called it a pontil mark, because it came from the punty, from you blowing in the pipe.
Now, I had a piece of Mexican glass that I found and learned a lot about that. Basically, I mean, because I couldn't figure out why it was all kind of not smooth and kind of wrinkly on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and watched something about the way that this piece was formed. It was a swan.
Oh.
It was a base. So basically it was done in one piece, but it was really thick and went out like this. It wasn't like swan, like the back of a swan, but it went out like this. And they dripped it and kept rolling the glass.
Oh, yeah.
And then, but they had it on a piece of, it's like fabric. I would say like saran wrap, but it's not saran wrap. But, and it made all the wrinkles in the bottom of it.
Oh, that's cool.
They did the neck, and when they did the neck, they twisted and made like a beak, and on the very end of the beak they did do that break off of it, and it left a little sharp piece in there. But I actually found that piece at my emporium and sold it. I sold it on a live sale, but it was very pretty. I had a lot of people asking me about that piece. So, you know, Mexican glass, Murano.
Oh, Mexican glass is beautiful, just like the pottery. They have a lot of pretty crystal and stuff. It's really pretty glass.
Okay, so I'm looking to see. Oh yes, so I was going to ask, and Michelle just put it in there. There's a show on Netflix, and is
Oh.
it called Blown?
Blown away.
Blown Away. But there is, so y'all, if you have Netflix, there is a series called Blown Away, and I just downloaded it. When I realized this and started talking to Alex, I went and found this series that I think someone else mentioned in the chat, and I downloaded all of them, and we haven't had a chance to watch them yet, but I want to go and watch that because I really think it is a beautiful art. And I actually found a piece from Jamestown. It is a little, it's kind of like a bud vase, but it's a little bit bigger at the top than a bud vase. But it does say it's blown in, and it has a sticker blown in Jamestown. But it has the little rough pontil where they broke it. And just like Alex says, it's kind of indented in there, and it's almost got like a little caved in part where the bottom piece is a little down, so it sits flat, and that broken piece is not seen. Katie said Nate got her into that Blown Away series, and I can't remember who was talking about that. But it was like right after I saw that piece. And okay, so on my Instagram is that picture of the Murano, because that was a hot topic. But is that picture of the Murano. I did the front and the back. And when I put that in, like if you save the picture and drop it into Google, it will tell you that a Murano piece is typically not going to be $24, $25, you know, but right. All of the comps sold and everything, even listed, they were just listed for 20 to 24.
Well,
I didn't look at the sticker. Like I didn't zoom in until afterwards.
Well, that's what I was telling you, that if you can buy it low, you can still sell it because it is a piece of pretty glass. So if you bought it low, like don't buy it at like, oh, it's Murano price. Like I was like, wow, $45 for this owl. That's pretty awesome. But no, it's just fake. It's just a pretty piece of art glass. So it's living in my china cabinet, and it's been with us for a while because.
So Katie's
buy it low.
Katie said she made a paperweight.
Oh, did she?
How do you make a paperweight? Is there anything Katie has not done or made?
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple of people that asked me about paperweights in general. And I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit because we talked about the polished. Now I can speak a little bit more eloquently and knowledgeable about the glass, because now I know this is called a pontil mark. This is because it's polished versus unpolished. I mean, you know, but
they still do make glassware with a rough pontil. So I don't want anybody to think that because you found a piece of glass with a mark on it that it's going to be from like the 1700s. I'm just saying that just because it has that doesn't make it a crappy piece of glass. Right. Or just because the bottom isn't polished, glossy clear doesn't make it a crappy piece of glass. I'm saying know your budget, know what you can spend, try and buy it low if you're wanting to resell. Or if you want to collect it, again, try maybe and buy it lower, unless it's something that you absolutely love and you're like, I don't care, I just want to buy it. You know, I like it. So that's the biggest tip I could give, is to just know your budget and within your budget, because your version of broke is going to be a different version of my being broke. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So you just shop within your budget. I've always said that in all my videos, you know, because you don't want anyone to feel like they're any more or less than you are, any reseller, like, you know, well, I can't really buy that. Well, the deals are out there. You can't have tunnel vision. You have to, like, I get tunnel vision a lot, you know. You got to like look outside your box and stuff like that. The things are out there. You just have to just shop within your means. Yeah. That's the biggest advice I could give.
if you're a reseller, because Joanne from A Work in Progress is right. You know, they say something is only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Exactly.
So, you know, and I kid around with my friends because they're willing to pay for Tory Burch shoes and, you know, all of the, I'm not willing to pay for shoes that cost that much. So, because they're just shoes, but you know, it's all about, you know, what you like and
Right.
what you're willing to spend.
Mhm.
Um, and when you're shopping, where your shopping priorities lie. Like you said, you kind of get tunnel vision. And I kind of think that, you know, starting out with the knickknacks and the staging stuff, I was kind of tunnel vision. I just wanted it to match. I just
Right.
go. I didn't look at what it was, and I just would think of like how this would look in someone's home. Now that I'm learning more about it, it is super exciting to find. I mean, I'll be honest, it's still exciting for me to find a McCoy piece. It's
Oh yeah, I don't find those at the thrift store.
find a Roseville piece or etched pink depression glass or even uranium, because you hear so much about those things in the chats or when you're watching videos or live sales, and people are always adding information that it's like, oh, I saw one, you know, it's like I saw one in the wild. So hey Debbie from Our Vagabond Travels, thanks for coming in. And there's different places. I mean, because I will say just from my own experience that my mom is moving and she is downsizing from a big house to a little bitty house, because it's just her. Well, she has all of my great grandmother's things, all of her parents' things. She has my big daddy's things who has passed away. So all of these things are there, but she only has this much space. So she has to prioritize.
Right.
She's not going to sell it. She's not a reseller. She's not going to do a yard sale. She's not going to put it on Facebook Marketplace. She profanes all of those things. So what she's doing is she's taking it and just giving it to a friend of ours who has a shop, or donating it or giving it to friends.
Yeah.
And that's some of the way that you also find true vintage things when people are just don't know what they don't care what they have. Number one.
Right. Like they're like, you know, it's okay. It can be worth $100. It's fine. Like, I don't have, like a lot of people are like, I don't have time for that. Or I don't want to do that. That's not really my thing. I'm just going to take it to the thrift store. So yeah, that is how you'll find a lot of things. And like you were saying, like you were shopping for your staging stuff. And you had sort of tunnel vision, right? So you can look at that a couple of ways. You can say, okay, I'm only going to buy what I like in case I'm stuck with it, you know, which is kind of true, but I would say that's more true in like bigger pieces, like paintings and things that are kind of harder to move on, like unless you find some freaking Picasso or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like things that are harder to ship.
Found at Goodwill. People found big Picasso
right?
Stuff at Goodwill.
I wish.
I haven't, but some have.
Right. And then when you go to list your things, you have to decide what kind of, and that's what my mom would say to me, you have to decide what kind of seller you're going to be. You're either going to be a seller that asks top dollar for everything you have and you sit on it for a while until you can get that price, or you're going to be the seller that has more affordable price points, that's going to, like, it's like turning tables at a restaurant. You're just going to get it in and get it out. And that's the kind of seller I want to be. I'm not in the business to keep everything that I have. I don't want to be a storage unit. So, but it's okay to be the other one. I just can't. I don't have the patience for that. I don't have the space for that. I feel overwhelmed when I have all those things, you know, so I want to get it in and out. I want to rotate it. I don't have a museum. You know what I mean? So, so that's another thing too, is like, you can shop for everything under the sun and possibly be stuck with it, something that you don't like, because you're experimenting, trying different things to resell, and that's fine. Or you can just shop things that you like, and you might potentially miss out on some things because you didn't grab it. Like I was saying, like I'm not drawn to like 70s stuff. Yeah. Like I'm just not drawn to it. So I might miss out on something because I'm thinking, oh, I don't really like that or something, you know. I could miss out on a potential profit, you know. So you just kind of have to decide Like, who are you going to be? Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Do you
It's all
need to
about your
have?
niche. Like Danny says, it's your niche. What do you like? What's your niche? And because you like it, you're going to be more apt to want to learn about it, to research
Right.
it, kind of look at all of the things. It's virtually impossible to be a reseller of all things, because then you're a master of trades and a master of none.
Right.
Find your niche and you say, hey, I'm a boho girl, or hey, I'm a 70s dude, or I'm a glass person, or now I will say that now that I'm starting to learn, I'm not as intimidated by the things that I see on the shelves to even pick them up, like the more expensive pieces, because you start looking, oh, okay, this is a true Roseville piece. It's marked, it's Roseville.
Right.
And it is really cute. I mean, it's the same thing with when you first started buying and you maybe weren't so worried about it having chips or cracks. But now you kind of, like, for me, I'm kind of going, well, I've left many things now that have chips or cracks that in the past I wouldn't have done so. Now, if I'm keeping it for myself, chips and cracks on one side don't bother me. I just turn it around to the other side. But if you're reselling it, I am trying to, and I don't know I can't remember the word that they call it, but you do want to try to strengthen the quality of your inventory.
Right.
Just like,
no, that's true. That's true. And I like, summer is very slow for resellers, like everywhere. Even when Aaron worked at like his old job, his 7 to 7 job, they had a season. Everyone has a season. So it's a good time to get your stuff listed and move on some stale things. So that's part of why we've had a lot of items that are like, here, take it, $5, $10, because you know what? It ain't selling in your store, or it didn't sell in your sale, and the money's sitting on your shelf.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, your money is spent. So you might as well try to recuperate some of it, even if you broke even. Even if you, oh gosh forbid, had to take less than what you bought it for, your whole money isn't out there sitting around on the shelf. You know what I'm saying? So I try to look for things. That's what you'll get better when you look for things. That's what I think. You'll be like, oh, you know what? I tried that. Nope. Or, oh no, that's a reproduction. That's not really my thing. It'll stay here for a while. I don't want to try and sell that. You'll just learn, like you said. You'll strengthen your own inventory because your knowledge builds. And like for me, like you said, if I have stuff with chips all over it in my cabinet because I really liked it, and it went down from the guy at the flea market says, oh, that's $35, and I'm like, it's broken. Oh, that's $3 now. It's useless. Not to me.
Yeah, not to
I
me.
have it in my cabinet,
And that's how I started with the glass, because I kind of felt like I was intimidated to even pick up glass, because like whether it's pressed or whether it's pressed glass or cut glass, I didn't even know that, and that just in the chats, I learned about, the mold marking and the seam, of those kinds of things. So the chats sometimes you have to read the chat, because there'll be a whole conversation going on during a live sale about an item. And that's where you learn the most. Dee says she's going to have a coffee mug sale. Dee, I'm with you, because I'm just going to tell you, I don't know why I pick up 1,000 coffee mugs, but if I have one thing in here, it's a coffee mug. But I saw that, let's see. Hold on. There was Dee says she loves vintage in general. Katie doesn't like the 70s either, but Christine says you can give her all of the 70s stuff. Dee makes a good point, and Stephanie too, that if they're not in love with it, they sell it, and if they sell it, they're just asking for fair market value and have a little bit of room. And that's something about the glass. The glass is, we think it is, because of our perception. I was thinking, oh, if it doesn't have a polished bottom, then it can't be as valuable. So I may pick up, a rookie, what I call my own, this is me speaking of myself, but I would call it a rookie mistake would be I would pick up one and leave behind something that, is a paperweight with a unpolished bottom, and I'd pick up a paperweight that was more expensive. But at the end of the day, I'm not, as a reseller, because I'm not using it in my home, as a reseller, I may have to take a break even or even a loss because I thought it was worth more, or I thought that I should have paid more for it. So that's kind of where I was with the glass, is like not knowing how much, should I pay for something without knowing anything about it. And that's kind of why
when I just say you have to bring your phone with you. It's a mobile computer. Try and look it up real quick while you're in the store. That's it. And then bottom line is you have to know your budget. If you want to, like, I remember talking with Dee a while ago, and Dee was like, everyone has a thing in their mind, like, I'm not going to the antique store. They're freaking expensive. Well, you can look at it another way. If you go in, yes, there are antique stores that are museums and they're very expensive. Yeah. But you can look at it a different way and be like, okay, I'm going to go in there with $75 and I'm going to see what I can find.
Yeah.
And then you pick from that. You pick from what you have a budget for, and then see what you can find in there. Because you can find some really good deals. Like the vase that I found, I paid up for. In my mind, I paid up a little bit. It's not a thrift store price. It was $25. And there's similar ones on there for over $500.
Right.
So, and I was just drawn to the birds. I didn't know who that was. I know who the guy is now because I did some research and I know who he is. But I was just drawn to the pretty birds that were on the vase.
And you find your better deals in the booths that don't sell glass. That just
That's true. That's another thing that I told him. We go into this antique store, and around here there's a lot of people that do like the more rustic stuff, more farmhouse stuff. And he'll go and he'll be like, "Oh no, it doesn't really help." I'm like, nope. Go into those booths, because every once in a while they'll throw in a piece of glass or something like that. Because they don't know. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it's about. I mean, I've found Viking glass in those type booths, like the pedestal leaf bowls and stuff, for like $8 because they didn't specialize in that. They didn't really know about it.
You come out with 2 fairy lamps.
Yeah, like today he walks back to a booth. Granted, he was with the kids, and when the kids are with you, you're like, your mind's everywhere. But he goes to a couple of booths, and they have a lot of rustic stuff. And he's like, nope, nothing really here. I go there and I get 2 fairy lamps in these booths that really didn't know anything about the glass, you know? So
I'm pretty sure that now that I learned, and I just saw again, I was watching a video from Jeffrey, and he said something about stretch glass. And he got a close up of it and literally showed me like this. Well, it didn't show me. It was out everybody, but I was with him that particular day.
I think I have a piece of it of stretched glass.
But when he showed it to me, because I kept hearing people say stretched glass and the marks on it, but when he said, because it looks like this, and he showed a close up and it's got stretch marks. I'm almost pretty sure when I told you earlier that lady was like, honey, do you know it was a little piece like this and it had the little points on it, and I kind of thought it had like crazing or something because it had I agree with you. We staged. That's what I did. I staged. Now I might have paid and I'm almost certain that it was stretch glass now that I've seen that one that he had, but that's what I was talking about.
Sometimes things click afterwards. You go, oh, that's what it was,
Yeah, for $5, and I'm with Michelle. Like every reseller is going to have a different list of what sells for them and what doesn't sell.
We're all in like different areas, And yes, I know you're selling. A lot of people sell online, so you have like an online market. But like, let me give you an example. This town probably has like 1,000 people, maybe. There is a store that opened up around the corner from my house, and my town is like one of those ghost towns you see where all the old antique or the mom and pop things are all shut down and closed. They're all just boarded up buildings. Well, she opens up this place and it says like something like Lorraine's Antiques or something like that. And I was all excited because it's around the corner from the house, you know, because we have to go like 5 years to get anywhere. So we go in there and she does the furniture. She repaints it, you know, and does all that stuff. But they also had like primitive stuff up on the shelves and things like that. Well, first, she was pretty rude. So that didn't help her with me any. Second, she had repainted antique furniture in there, like bright teal turquoise colors, you know, like, you know, not refurbished, but like repainted, you know. She didn't fix up holes and keep it authentic. She repainted the antique pieces.
She just flipped it.
Right. But they were like $950.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, not in this town, you're not. That you have this tiny little town as your market. This isn't a tourist town. You know, this isn't Orlando. It's not Tampa. It's not downtown St. Pete. This is a tiny little town of like 1,000 people. And the whole downtown is like boarded up and it doesn't exist anymore. You don't have that here.
Traffic.
You need to, if you want to have a place like that, you need to market for the town that you're in. You know, I mean, unless she's like posting it on Marketplace and doing like both and just housing it at her store. I don't know. She was, like I said, she was kind of rude, so I didn't engage and gather more information. But it's like you have your areas, you know, like what you know does well for you in that area. And I don't think that's going to do very well here.
So where I am I'm in an antique emporium that the one lady has owned it 30 years, right? And she has a lot of true antiques, a lot of true collectibles. Well, I showed her what I have because I have refurbished and flipped. I have a combination of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm starting to, because she kept telling me I had all this furniture in there and she was like, you need more stuff in here. Well, I was a little leery of putting it in there because if, you know, every antique mall that we have in Texas is like you walk into an old saloon where it's all dirty, you know, cobwebs and stuff.
That's kind of,
painted pieces and refurbished pieces and flipped pieces, and I ripped them apart. And then I had a few staging items, and she was like, all your staging stuff sold. I put a price on this and I put a price on that. And I was like, one of them, I was like, excuse me, but that was actually mine, like my personal one. She was like, well, they made an offer and it's been here for a while, so I sold it. So she was like, you need to put more of that stuff in there. And I saw that Joanne put in the chat that sometimes people in these booths will just drop them off and like they'll carry them around and put them in somebody else's booth. Like I have been in there's a guy that has down from me that has like true old tools and old farm things, you know, like handheld tools, and end up in my booth. And, you know, I mean, it just happens. So I know that does happen. Yeah, she sold my stuff, Peterson. She actually sold something that came from my house, which I just used for staging. But I do agree that, you know, I'm in a true antique emporium and I have modern flipped farmhouse stuff, but I started putting a lot more.
But you told me your price point.
Yeah.
That was like $600-700 less than hers. That's what I'm saying. You price it for what you bought it for, how long it took you to refinish it, and for where you're at.
I bought a piece that, I mean, it needed a bunch of work, and we did put a lot of work into it. I bought it was almost like a buffet. It was a little smaller than what I would call a buffet, but it wasn't a dresser. And I paid $20 for it at a junk store. Mm-hmm. I did flip it for $550. And all that was sturdy it up and fix the tracks. And I mean, when I say all I did, but I sturdied it up. I fixed the tracks. The veneer couldn't be saved. We had to take that veneer piece off, and then I painted it. But once it was painted in distress and that farmhouse white, it did sell for $550. And it was profit on top of what I did. And that's what some people are looking for. Now, Christine has tells me stop painting everything. 'Cause
No, it's coming back to where, like when I was talking about the Grand Millennial and stuff like that, those different styles where the natural woods are coming back, and a lot of the lighter woods, which really isn't my cup of tea. I like the darker stuff, but a lot of the lighter things are coming back. So sometimes you have to refrain and not paint every single thing you find. I have painted pieces and I have not painted pieces. I have a mix of both in my house.
Now what we're starting to do is when we find a piece that can be refurbished, meaning maintained in its integrity.
Right.
It just needs to be shirred up, polished up, fixed up a little bit and maintain the true aesthetics of the piece. We do that. But when it really can't be,
yeah, I get what you're saying.
Imperfections and
right. So it's a way you can save it and bring it back into like a modern time where someone can buy it and it can be loved again. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and I was really worried about putting my pieces in an antique emporium where everything is really, really old. I need to do an actual live through there or another video through there. I've done a couple, but to show you the difference but now I've got so much of this kitschy stuff in there because that's what's turning over, like you were saying. But I did want to start staging with glass and stuff, which is why I kind of asked. I didn't want to, I know that Michelle and Christine and I are actually having a glass sale, all glass sale August 3rd. And I told them, y'all, I need to know what this is. Yeah, I found it. And it came about because I actually went into the store next to the Emporium one day and picked up like, I don't know, 8, 9 glass pieces. And I was like, oh, they're beautiful. And then they were asking me, like, what is it? Or who do you think made it? I was like, I don't know. So they were like, you're going to have to know if you're
There's only one way to find out.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say you don't know. Like if you wanted to sell on eBay and you just could not find that piece anywhere, you just title it and describe it as best you can and mark it for whatever you need to get out of it, or you can put it in auction and be like, okay, I'll see if this is something special, like for example, my mom picked up a Nippon vase. Now, when you look up Nippon vase, I mean, they were hand painted a long time ago. There's not necessarily like a painter that sells more than the other. I mean, there wasn't necessarily a paint theme like ducks or houses or whatever, butterflies that sold more than the other. It was the eye of the beholder, So we listed it and I put it in auction because I don't know. I knew it was Nippon. I knew it wasn't broken. I knew it was in good shape. So I put what I knew and it sold for over $100. So, you just take a chance. It's okay to not know. Is it to your detriment? Yeah. But it's okay to not know everything. I beat myself up all the time. Like, why don't I know this? Why can't I remember this? Why this? Why you're not going to know everything.
So did you say you had a piece of stretched glass?
I do. I'd have to go get it.
Okay. And on your owl, the other question I have about your owl, would you now consider that art glass?
Yep. It's just art. Yep. It's just art glass. You can tell that this wasn't made by a machine, that someone took tools and pulled his little feet and attached his feet to his body. It's just a hand done piece of art glass. There's no mold marks. There's nothing like that. It is a piece of art glass. Right. It's just not Murano.
What does the bottom look like then?
This is from what I've learned, this is messy to be Murano. Like they're very clean with their things. They're like when I was telling you about the bubbles.
Yeah.
There's no extra bubbles floating around. It's very precise in their patterns. So that's what I've learned about that.
Piece of the eyes, are those actually glass circles too? Is all glass?
Yes, they're all glass. Like that's white glass, amber glass, black glass.
Oh, wow.
He's still a cool piece, right? Like if I tore that Murano sticker off, someone would buy him because they liked owls or because they liked art glass.
Coloring is beautiful on there.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So buy in your budget. That's all I got to say.
And that the piece that you had the control bubbles, show us that again, because so it isn't a pattern. So if they're just sporadic and there doesn't seem to
It's not controlled. There's just bubbles in it.
Okay.
If there's no pattern, it's usually done in a pattern.
Okay. To make it controlled bubbles.
Right. Because they were specifically going out of their way to place them where they needed to place them. Like this guy, he just has bubbles. Gabriel got me this for Christmas.
Yeah, I'm always intrigued by the cats that have the little fish on the inside of them. Or
yeah. So Aaron picked this owl up to match.
He's so beautiful.
But it's got part of that fake Murano. We joke and call it Furano.
Furano.
Yeah, but it's still great. So we picked it up from our friend, and see how it has, I don't know if you can see, there's like random little bubbles in there.
Oh wait, yeah, I see.
Apparently Murano does not do that. They are very clean with their work. They don't leave stuff like that. Like they'll smash and break stuff when it looks like that. That's not good enough for them, to the Murano artisans. But he's gorgeous. We got him because he matches our other guy.
That is a perfect pair. Dee is asking, what's the other name for controlled bubbles?
Oh, Bolacante.
Say it again.
Bolacante.
I think I've heard the word.
Yeah, I've heard it a couple of times, but let me hear it from like, I don't know, someone who knows how to say. You can only say it like how you've heard it. You know what I mean?
But look how smart I'm gonna be when I say that word.
Yes, girl. You could just say controlled bubbles.
Oh, excuse me. I wrote it down, but I'm not even gonna tell you. I'm from South Carolina, so I'm not gonna tell you how I actually spelled that. Because
so Pamela 13, Aaron pointed out, there's a lot of eBay listings that show the owls and it says Murano. We just think a lot of people, knowingly or unknowingly, like it's the biggest running joke we have when we go to the flea market. We'll walk up to a piece of art glass and I'll look at it and I'll go, it's Murano. So then we go and we pick it up and the person automatically, it's Murano. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I'm like, but they're trying to sell it at that price point and it's not.
Yeah.
So,
and that was the other thing about the glass. I mean, that's what we were talking about earlier. As a reseller with glass, either you don't know what you have and you resell too low, or you think something.
That's with everything. That's with everything. Okay. So like my mom likes to watch, what is his name? I don't think it's the DC picker. It's some guy in California. No, I forget his name. But he does a lot of bits of everything. I don't think he does really like vintage glassware, but he does everything from like sports equipment to vintage video games. Like he does all kinds of stuff. So my mom likes to watch him. So we know different things to look at when we're in the thrift store, especially when the knickknack section isn't providing anything for us that day. So we know to go, like, let me go check the blankets. Let me go, look at the purses. Let me go do this, do that. So she was talking to me about baseball gloves one day. And I was just like, oh, okay. Yeah. The stores don't really have a big sporting goods section. So I didn't think to really wander over there. It's like the littlest thing. It's like the size of, I don't know, it's smaller than like a kitchen table. It's so small, their area. So anyways, I'm at Salvation Army one day and they're bringing out a basket and there's a baseball glove in there. So I pull it out because it looks pretty old and the shape of it is a little different. And I noticed that it's like a left-handed glove and it was only $4.99 or something like that. Well, I did quick research in the store and the guy that it's almost like how Nike got together with like Michael Jordan or something. You know what I mean? Like it was a company that was sponsoring this particular baseball player. Well, he was a baseball player that was like the first Hispanic baseball in Major League Baseball. He was the first guy. He was like from way back in the day, like the 1940s and 50s or something like that. So when I first saw that, I said, okay, I'm going to get this because one, It's cheap enough. Why not? I
Right.
didn't know anything about baseball gloves, but I thought that guy was pretty interesting. So I get it home. I do a little bit more research. I listed that thing for like $300 and it sold. There wasn't another glove on there. I didn't know what the hell to put it at, to be quite honest with you. I saw that his baseball cards did very well. So I just said, hey, I mean, it wasn't signed by him or anything. It was just like he endorsed that specific glove. And he happened to be an important person in Major League Baseball history. So I said, why not? So I threw it up there for $300. And in like 24 hours, it sold.
Somebody's saying Roberto Clemente.
No, that wasn't him. It wasn't that guy. I can't remember his name now, and it was a while ago, so it won't show up in my solds, but it wasn't that guy.
Bree is saying, is the guy you're talking about watching Joey Bada Bing?
No, it's something California, something. I don't know.
Yeah. So, but I was looking at, and Christine's right. When I was looking at the chat just now, she said something that it's sometimes fun to branch out and try new things. And that's kind of how I felt about the glass because, well, one, I just got, my dad sent me these Hummel wine glasses. And I was
I've seen those before with the little guys in the middle.
And I was like, oh, they're cute, but whatever. And he was like, hey, do what you want to do with these. If you want to put them in your booth, if you want to sell them, whatever. Well, I started looking them up in different platforms. Mm-hmm. And, some of them are more valuable than others, but as a collective set of 6, they actually do very well. Well, that's not something that I would. They are made in Germany. They're stamped made in Germany. So it does make them a little bit different. And so I thought, I should probably look up stuff like this more often. And to branch out.
It's the Monk, isn't it? The Monk.
So there's the Monk. There's the I'm looking at them now. There's the Monk. There's a little girl, some kind of lady holding something. There's a chimney sweep. There is 2 other little girls and a little boy that's holding something. So I have a set of 6. And I
don't think they originally came like that. I think like the Monk would have been all monks. The girl would have been all girls. I think.
I don't remember.
Because I've seen them in the antique store, unless someone just like sought out all the monks and put them together as a set. I've seen them like that sold.
If you look them up, they come in a case.
Mm-hmm.
They come as a set, like a townspeople. And some of them are like that, but there's different. When I looked them up, not all of the cases had like the same people. So I don't.
Okay, so there's different versions of that collection.
Yeah. So I don't know. This is the set that my step grandfather had when he was in Germany. He bought and brought back when he was stationed there, and so. This is the 6. I don't know if he got to choose 6 and they put him in a little case for him, or if he just got these 6 in itself.
So is your point that you don't want to sell them because he gave them to you?
No, my point is that that was like Christine was saying, hey, sometimes it's fun to branch out. And yeah, it is. And that's where glass started in. And then he gave me those. And I'm like, well, Hummel doesn't really sell. But in this case, where it is a glassware, it is it's a stemmed glassware. And I put it on my Instagram.
It's a usable item. It's not a knickknack that sits on the shelf. And actually, the Monk guy does pretty okay depending on the piece.
Yeah, let me see. I'll try to grab it. I know some people have asked me, so hold on. They're right here.
Okay, I'm going to grab myself a drink. So y'all are going to see a blank screen.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to, because I know they ask. In shipping, one of them broke, but it's because the stem of these glasses are actually inside of a Hummel figure. So they are down in there. And the glass is aged, so it's yellowed, and it actually just fits right back in there. But there's the little girl, and then there is the little boy. But see, they're supposed to be wine glasses, but it's not a lot of wine, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. Here's the monk that she was talking about. Here's the monk, and I mean, this is etched. So I don't know if it's gonna pick it up, but that is etched right here, the leaf, and then there's gold around there.
I grabbed the stretched vase too while I was at it.
There's a little business guy, but so there's gold
And cheese.
They are called, I think they are they 24 karat? I can't remember. 24 karat gold, and they're etched right here. Now, Michelle from Newton's Cupboard might know, but I think, and this is all like etched. There's this little guy. There's the chimney sweep, which he's my favorite. I like him.
He's cute.
And they're like little figurines. Now, the only difference I see with these is like some of them, the only one that doesn't have a high gloss is the robe of the monk. Now, the head of the monk is high gloss, and his hands and his shoes, but like his robe isn't a high gloss. And then there's this little girl. So the pattern on the glass is all the same. It's like grape and leaf pattern, and it is etched into the glass with the gold around there, but the people are different. So I actually had someone, when I posted a picture to say, this is what I got today, they asked me for a price, and I was like, well, you'll just have to wait. And I know a friend of mine, and I was like, you'll have to wait, because I don't know. I don't know what to do. But the glass at the bottom actually has faded, and that's supposed to be, I just read that and I should have written it down, where the glass discolors. It was started out like a clear color, but I want to show you how you can see how dark. Now they're not all the same. I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but can you see that the glass color gets dark?
Yeah.
At the bottom, but like this one, the glass color at the bottom is not as dark.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that is about sunlight getting to them. I don't know if it's aging the glass or anything like that.
Well, they used to mix
Friar Chuck. Yeah. So.
They used to mix additives in glass to make it colorless, and over time those additives start to change, or for example, make things glow when they shouldn't glow. A lot of like brilliant cut glass will glow sometimes like under a UV light, like a pale-ish yellow or a pale-ish pink color, because those additives have like dissolved or corroded, if you will. And so it starts to glow.
Christine said something. Is that what makes one glass turn purple? I do know that the additives in one, or if you put glass in the sun, and there's a certain glass that will turn purple over time. If
it's the additives in the glass.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to do that.
Yeah.
I dig a lot of bottles that happens to. And also it has this like iridescent hue to the glass when it really wouldn't have had it, because of the salt and stuff in the soil.
Yeah.
It creates like an iridescence.
Peterson says manganese is the sun purple. So yes, they're saying, is that because of the manganese in the glass? So yes. So I mean, this is kind of, I mean, glass in general, like etched glass, cut glass, pressed glass. I mean, it's just,
there's so much to know.
There's so much to know. And that's why I was like, you know, everybody thinks uranium is so expensive. And I heard Katie saying this in the chat a couple of times, but it really is about the glass itself more than the fact that it's uranium, because there's some uranium pieces that are just, you know, like glass with uranium. And then there's some really nice pieces of glass or types of glass that make it more. And Dana says, my hubby plays the stock market, which I equate to reselling. He gets so mad when he sells a stock too soon and could have made more money. I always tell him, you made money, don't be greedy. So it's true. But, you know, if you're like you were saying, it, you as a reseller is like, you're looking to turn inventory.
Right.
Keep it coming.
I don't want to be a museum. I don't want to hold on to things forever. And I also have evolved. Like, I remember when I first started with like going past jewelry into more of the knickknack stuff, I would just kind of grab whatever was a good deal, but that didn't necessarily sell. And then I would be stuck on stuff sitting for a long time, or you'd look it up and you'd be like, man, this only sells for like $8, you know?
Right.
So you're going to do that same work for that $8 piece that you're going to do on something that you could have possibly made, $20+ on. So I've really changed how I look at things. Like, just because it's a good deal and it's cheap, or it's 59 cents or whatever, doesn't mean I need to have it. So I've changed the things I look for, because I need my profit to be higher. And yeah, but right now summer is slow. So like I said, it's a time where you can just go through things and be like, okay, you know what? We're going to have like a fire sale.
And that's what my Christmas in July, the sale that I had on Monday, it was, I was taking out that stuff, and there was a lot of last year's inventory that I had packed away. And then when I look at this year, what I have for Christmas, I was like, I've got to purge this inventory. So I did it. Yes. Bree, I think I said Hummel, but they are Goebel. Is it Goebel?
Yes.
And so, yes, I think you're correct on that. As a matter of fact, I know that you are. Somebody said, Joanne's saying, I wish I was like dealers and try to double their money or more, but crazy me, I will buy things to give a certain look, but selling quickly makes me wonder. And that's what happened when I started staging. Is I swear that was a piece of stretch glass. And now that I've seen it today, and it made me just be like, that's what that lady was talking about. So here's stretched glass, y'all. It does look like my thighs, the stretch marks on them. You're right.
Right? Yep, that's exactly it. And this is actually, I don't know if you won't be able to see it. Can you see that it's purple? No, you can't. It's actually, see, you got like a card.
You can see it kind of like that iridescent, or that aurora borealis kind of.
Well, yeah, it's got like a carnivalness to it on the inside, but it's actually amethyst glass. And look, it's got a nice rough pontil there. Yeah. I mean, it's polished soft. It won't cut you, but they didn't polish it down to where it doesn't exist anymore. But it's a beautiful antique piece of glass. So it's fantastic.
But that's what I swear that's what that was when that lady bought it. And
it might have been. It comes in all kinds of colors and stuff.
Yeah. And Dee, I think that the Goebel made Hummel, but there's a lady about the Hummel. It's some kind of sister. It's I have a whole book on it, and they're Goebel made Hummel, but it was the person who created the figure or something, and they're each Hummel designs or something. Like, I just had a 1975 child ornament, and it had the whole story about that on there. The newer Hummels, yeah. Yes. And they're different textures too than some of them. And yeah, Debbie says, I think on YouTube you build an audience that loves your style, especially if you sell what you love. And you're more excited about things that you like in general. If it's pretty to you, drawn to it, you're more excited about that. So we're, I don't want to keep Alex too long, because I know she has graciously accepted to do this for me. And I've tried to answer people's questions in the chats as we've gone along. And I really, really appreciate, Alex, you coming on and sharing.
Oh, you're welcome.
Clearing up some things for me and sharing knowledge.
I mean, if that helped anybody, fantastic. I don't have a PhD in this stuff, so I'm just telling you what I've picked up, what I've learned. It's not like, carved in stone. It's not gospel or anything like that. But that's just some things that I've learned.
So as we close out, if you could, what should be a bolo right now? What do you think is fixing to trend, or what is trending? What would you for?
Everyone's looking for fire and light glass,
Which I've yet to figure out what that is.
If you've probably passed it a gazillion times.
Probably.
Because once you see it, you go, that's it. Some of it's signed, some of it's not. Also, Glass Baby is very popular. It's a glass company that's in, I want to say Oregon or Washington State. I think Oregon. They hand make all of their,
Glass Baby?
Glass Baby. Yes. They're a popular company as well. People are really looking for that stuff. It sells really well. Yeah, those are the two things that I think that are pretty hot. I think things that are kind of losing their luster might be fairy lamps. I think those are kind of losing their shine a little bit. I would say like Viking glass, especially like the amberina and the amber colors. Depending on the shape, I think that's losing its luster. What else did you say? Oh yeah, actually uranium glass, I think that's kind of, at least in the live sale venue.
Is it because basically
yes,
flooded?
That's what I think. Yeah. Because once you have a lot of something, there's no need or want for it anymore. There's because you can get it anywhere. Yeah. So that's just how it works, So it's like a couple of fairy lamps that I paid up for. I brought them to eBay to sell instead of in these slow months being like, okay. And I even told Aaron, I said, we're not paying this price for these, especially right now. For one, it's slow because it's summer. And two, I think people are like, have had it up to here with fairy lamps. They can get them anywhere. So our price that we would pay has gone down. And the ones that I think that are a little more valuable are going right to eBay, where I have a much bigger like opportunity, because not everyone on eBay knows that I'm on YouTube. You know what I mean? And not all of my YouTube people go to eBay to shop. So, like have some people shop here, have some people shop there. So.
Well, and I agree that I think clear glass is cool too. I'm all about bringing back the clear glass, and a couple of us have talked about doing a collab about clear glass because it's so multifaceted. Because you can really use it in any way. A lot of the fairy lamps that most of us see are the green or the brown or whatever. You throw a red one in that's not flash painted, or a cobalt blue one in, those, yes, they might still be sought after, but the commonplace ones, different shaped ones are doing well still, I think. But somebody is asking about the seller platforms. I right now have a booth that is here in Texas, and I have shows. So I do traveling shows. It's a junk hippie show. So it's a bunch of us people that do junk that is refurbished or just junk or vintage or antiques or whatever. And then I do live sales here on YouTube. Now, my friends are trying to talk me into eBay. I just don't know if I'm as stout-hearted enough to do that yet. I'm pretty trepidatious about that. But Alex, what are your platforms?
Well, I have live sales on my channel. We also have an antique booth in Zephyr Hills, Florida. That's where we are. I have eBay. I did have Etsy, but I didn't like their new pricing and stuff. So I kind of let that go a while ago. And I also, once in a while, I'll post things on Instagram for sale.
Yeah. So your live sales are set. They are
Fridays and Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. So, and if you can catch those and see some of that pretty glass. So, most of everybody is already subscribed to Alex. So, but if you're not, make sure that you are subscribed. And she is on Instagram as well. And her live sales do have some beautiful things, including the glass. She finds the best paperweights. I've just started looking at paperweights. And I will say I found two, and both of them sold like that. And I was kind of like, I don't know, because I don't know anything about them. You know, the polished bottom, you know, what am I looking for on the inside, which is what I wanted to get a little bit more direction about today in doing this. Thank you for, I think, Side Street Market, Christine put in your eBay link and
thanks.
link. So that was sweet of you to do that. So yes, make sure that you give us a thumbs up, our live chat a thumbs up, and make sure that if somebody else wants to go back and watch the replay, I mean, I knew there was no way for us to get all the questions answered, especially the questions that I have, because I can ask a lot of questions. But just to kind of give me some clarity about the basic stuff, you know, pontos and polish and controlled bubbles and, you know, what to be on the lookout for and things. And your examples helped me a lot. So I really want to say thank you for that.
Well, and at the end of the day, you have to do you. If you're not comfortable with eBay yet, don't dip your toes in. Do what you're comfortable with. Buy what you're comfortable buying at what price point you're comfortable buying it at. That's at the end of the day that you have yourself and your home to worry about. So it doesn't matter what this YouTuber does or what this YouTuber says. You do what works for you.
And I do like the learning aspect of that. And I will say that I have to get better at watching like Michelle's at Newton's Cupboard. She does her Wisdom Wednesdays. I mean, she's going through books, but I don't have access to the books.
Right.
At least I'm getting some knowledge, and you can actually replay and rewatch that.
Right.
Do the same thing with George when I try to hit some of his. But even in just watching a video, like I told you, I just happened to hit a video of Jeffrey's today, and he showed me stretch glass, and now I can have a visual.
Right.
What everybody's been saying in the chat and what people have been talking about on sales. So now I have that visual about that. So, I mean, I'm always picking Dolores's brain about brooches and things, but I've started learning a little bit about that too. So I just want to say thanks to everybody who stayed with us. It went a little bit longer than we anticipated, but I do appreciate everybody coming. Again, if you haven't subscribed to our channels, please do so. And look for us on YouTube and Instagram. And until next time, y'all stay pretty and be sweet. Bye, y'all. Thanks.
Bye.